There is a dangerously seductive idea that has lived alongside humanity since the days we still trembled around campfires. It is so simple that everyone finds it reasonable, yet toxic enough to turn a village into ashes, a family into enemies, a nation into a hunting machine. The idea is this: if a sin is too filthy to bear a human name, call it a demon. If a desire is too shameful to admit, say it whispers in the dark. If an act is too cruel to look at directly, claim that something entered your hands and used them. And so a name is raised like a white towel, demon, not merely as a grotesque creature with horns and claws, but as a perfect excuse for human beings to wash their hands clean. But what if tonight I told you something even more terrifying than the existence of demons? The most frightening thing is not that demons tempt us. The most frightening thing is that we create demons precisely when we need them most. When we need a scapegoat. When we need a simple explanation for the complexity of the human heart. When we need a black mirror so everything ugly can be reflected onto it while we stand outside, claiming to be the victim. Imagine an ancient world where nightfall is a heavy curtain that smells of smoke and fear. Wooden houses huddle close, fields fall silent, and at the edge of the firelight, the darkness seems to breathe. In that world, people have no language for anxiety, no science to explain illness, no psychology to speak of trauma. They have only signs. A child burning with fever, a storm that shatters the harvest, a man who suddenly changes, irritable, violent, as if replaced by someone else. And when reason is not enough, imagination builds an entity. Something that stands on the far side of the border of light. Something that can hear prayers and laugh. Something that can cling to flesh, to dreams, to rage. The demon is born from that moment, from the gray zone between what we do not understand and what we do not dare to admit. At first, it is only a name for strangeness. A whisper explaining convulsions. A dark shadow explaining filthy dreams. An invisible beast explaining meaningless death. But very quickly, it becomes a character, with a form, with habits, with rules. And then it becomes a weapon. I want you to meet a character without a name, because he could be anyone. A shrine keeper, a priest, or a storyteller, paid with a bowl of hot soup. He stands before the crowd in flickering light, and his voice does not merely narrate. It commands the emotions of an entire community. He speaks of the demon as one speaks of a predator whose tracks have been found. He describes a long shadow sliding across rooftops. He tells of scratching at doors. He stresses that the demon likes the weak-willed, the different, the ones who are not like the rest. And in that moment, you can see something chillingly familiar. Fear needs an address. And the demon provides that address by pointing straight at a real human being. A girl living alone. A woman too beautiful, too free, too difficult to control. A young man who laughs too much, says strange things, refuses to kneel at the right time. An old person growing senile, telling ancient stories no one wants to hear. When a community wants to punish, it rarely says outright that it is punishing. It says it is purifying. When it wants to take something, it rarely says outright that it is stealing. It says it is saving. And the demon becomes the key that unlocks every moral door. Because if the other person is possessed, then everything you do to them becomes necessary. Step deeper into the lore of the demon world. In old tales, the demon does not appear only as a monster. It appears as a contract, a bargain between desire and its price. You want power? You offer a piece of your soul. You want love? You trade away peace. You want knowledge? You pay with sleep. This is alluring because it gives life the structure of a story. Every tragedy has a supernatural cause. Every fall has an instigator behind it. People like that because it is simple. It turns chaos into a script. It turns mistakes into temptation. It turns responsibility into victimhood. But the demon of legend is not always evil. Some cultures see demons as a category of beings, a kind of spirit, a dark face of nature, sometimes dangerous, sometimes useful, sometimes simply different. Only when the world is moralized does the demon get locked into the frame of an absolute enemy. And that is when it becomes the strongest excuse. Because an absolute enemy does not need to be understood. No bargaining. No listening. Only destruction. In epic imagination, demons often share one trait. They know you. They know what you hide. They can read the weak point in your mind. They do not need physical strength, only the right whisper at the right moment. In the darkness of a room, a warrior kneels beneath guilt, his hands still stained with blood, and he hears a voice like wind slipping through ribs. The voice does not tell him to kill. It only says, "You have already killed." So what does one more matter? In lore, demons rarely create evil out of nothing. They do something subtler. They legitimize the evil that already exists. They turn weakness into entitlement. They turn anger into justice. They turn greed into destiny. And if we peel away the mythic mist, you will recognize it. This is how human beings talk to themselves every day. When we do wrong, we rarely say, "I wanted to." We say, "I had to." We say, "Everyone does it." We say, "They deserved it." We say, "I had no choice." In real life, a demon does not need horns. A demon can be a story you tell yourself so you can sleep well. Now return to another ancient scene. A trial. Not a trial with a cold judge and thick files, but the trial of the crowd. The accused stands inside the circle. They are judged not only by law, but by the community's fear. Evidence can be as thin as a hair, but signs are everywhere. A sickness after they passed someone's house. An animal dying strangely. A nightmare someone had, and so the demon is named. Once the demon is named, truth matters less than relief. Because if there is a demon, then we do not have to face something even more terrifying. That disaster can strike at random. That good people can suffer for no reason. That humans can be cruel simply out of fear. Do you see it? The demon is not only a monster in the dark. The demon is a psychological mechanism. It is morality's emergency exit. When we are too afraid to admit we were wrong, we build something that is not me. When a community panics before uncertainty, it searches for something to nail down. And in the history of human storytelling, there has never been a nail more convenient than the demon. But the story does not end there. Because the demon is not only used to blame individuals, it is also used to whitewash an entire system. Imagine a kingdom hungry for power. It wants to expand its borders. It wants land, gold, sea routes. But if it says outright, "We are going to steal," the people will hesitate. So what does it say? It says, "We are going to destroy demons." It describes the other side as no longer human. It calls them servants of darkness. It paints supernatural marks on their faces. And so war becomes holy war. Blood becomes an offering. Slaughter becomes a sacred duty. In myth, heroes kill demons to save the world. But in real life, many demons are invented to justify killing people. When you label a group as demons, you take the first step of every catastrophe. You strip away their humanity. And once humanity is stripped away, everything that follows becomes reasonable. By now you might think the demon is only a tool of power. But there is a deeper, more personal layer. The demon is also a tool for each individual. In possession stories, the most frightening moment is not when the demon shows its face. It is when the main character feels relief. Relief because at last they can say, "It wasn't me. I did not betray. The demon made me betray. I did not desire. The demon tempted me. I am not violent. The demon provoked me." It sounds like self-justification, but it is also a deep fear. If I accept that it was me, I will have to take responsibility. And responsibility, for many people, is more terrifying than hell. Now let us build a demon universe in truly epic terms. In that universe, the demon does not live in a specific place. It lives on the boundary, on the line between sleep and waking, between desire and discipline, between fear and courage. The demon is a creature of moral gaps, the places people refuse to look. It grows on beautiful lies. It drinks every "I had to." It devours every "it's because of them." It likes those who want to be seen as good while wanting to do evil without being named. In this lore, the demon has a very special ritual. It does not need to be summoned with blood, but with self-delusion. All it takes is one person standing before a mirror and repeating a sentence to themselves until they believe it. "I am not a bad person." When that sentence becomes absolute, the demon has found shelter, because absolutes are the richest soil for violence. When you are certain you are good, you can do anything and still call it justice. That is why, in Western storytelling traditions, demons often come with the theme of temptation. But temptation is not really an invitation to do evil. The greatest temptation is an invitation to avoid the truth about yourself. It is an invitation to hand the key of the soul to another name, so you do not have to hold the key yourself. Open the door yourself and look at what is inside. If you have ever watched modern exorcism stories, you will recognize a familiar motif. The room turns cold. The lights flicker. A loved one changes their voice. And everyone around them shares the same reaction. They want to believe it is a demon, because if it is not, they must believe something even more terrifying. That a human being can break. That a mind can collapse. That suffering can turn someone into a stranger. In this case, the demon is both fear and comfort. Because the demon promises that if we drive it out, everything will return to normal. But if it is real trauma, real illness, a real crack, there is no simple ritual that can clean it away. And so the demon becomes how we speak about things that are hard to speak about. Addictions, violence inside families, forbidden desires, obsessions society refuses to name. There was a time when people looked at someone trembling with illness and said they were possessed. There was a time when people looked at an angry woman and said a demon controlled her. If you replace the word demon with certain modern terms, sometimes the story becomes painfully clear. But the point is, every time we use the demon to cover a complex truth, we are choosing convenience over courage. Still, if the demon is only an excuse, why is it so enduring? Why do images of devils, demons, darkness, hell return again and again in every era, from folk tales to blockbuster films? The answer is this: the demon is an extremely powerful symbol for speaking about the human dark side without making the listener run away. If I tell you, sometimes you can do cruel things and still believe you are right, it lands because it relates. But if I tell you there is a demon behind your shoulder, whispering in your own voice, you will shudder and you will keep listening. Myth does what reason often cannot. It turns psychology into images. In symbolism, demons often represent repressed instinct, the self that is denied, fear pushed underground. They are like a shadow that follows you. The more you deny it, the longer it becomes. The more you insist, "I would never do that," the more power it gains, because it lives in the place you refuse to look. And when it erupts, you will swear it was not you. You will swear something took you over. You will swear you were controlled. And in that moment, the demon has won. Not because it made you do evil, but because it made you flee from the truth that evil lies within your own capacity. In old lore, defeating a demon does not only require charms, it requires naming it correctly. Not the name it claims, but its true name. If we read that as a metaphor, the lesson is chilling. What saves a person is not throwing evil outward, but daring to name the evil inside themselves. Name jealousy. Name hatred. Name pride. Name the hunger for power. When you name it correctly, it loses the ability to hide behind the mask of not me. But people rarely want to name it correctly, because naming it correctly means changing, and change hurts. So we prefer rituals. We prefer a battle outside rather than a war within. We prefer the image of an exorcist pushing back darkness because it makes us feel safe. Yet in reality, most darkness does not need to be driven away. It needs to be understood, controlled, and placed where it belongs. You may ask then, are demons real? In the storyteller's sense, demons are always real because they always have effects. They are real the way a sentence can ruin an entire life. Real the way a rumor can burn a reputation to the ground. Real the way a label can turn a person into a target. Demons are real in the symbolic sense, and sometimes symbols are more dangerous than physical creatures because they slip into the human mind. Look at modern culture. We still use demons, only we change their costumes. We talk about inner demons, the devils inside. We say someone is demonized, turned into a demon so they become easier to hate. We watch stories where villains are called demons, because then we do not have to hear their reasons. Social media, in a strange way, is also a demon factory. All it takes is a clipped video, a twisted sentence, a wave of outrage, and a human being can be turned into a demon in the eyes of millions. And once they are a demon, we feel allowed to attack. We wash our hands again. We say, I'm just standing on the right side. The demon, once again, becomes the excuse. In the best stories, the demon is not defeated by strength. It is defeated by truth. The main character looks directly at what they were avoiding, admits what they wanted to deny, apologizes when an apology is needed, lets go when letting go is needed. It is an ending less spectacular than swordplay, but more frightening because it demands something rare, responsibility. And this is the core of tonight's theme. When the demon is only an excuse for humans to wash their hands clean, we are not merely inventing a devil. We are building a prison for growth. A person who refuses responsibility will never change. A community that always blames demons will never learn to understand the real causes. A society that constantly demonizes others will never heal its own fear. But I do not want the story to end in coldness, because the demon, as a symbol, can also be a signal. It is an alarm bell that something has been neglected in the soul. A wound not yet named, a hunger not yet understood, a fear searching for a way out. In lore, demons appear where there is a crack. And in life, a crack is not something to be ashamed of. A crack is where light can enter, if we dare to look. So if you want an ending with epic weight, here it is. Not every darkness is a demon, but every demon begins with a darkness we refuse to name. And the true battle does not take place in graveyards, not in churches, not at the gates of hell. The true battle happens at a silent moment when you stand alone, unseen, and you are given a choice between two sentences. The first sentence is the easiest, the sweetest, the one that makes your hands clean instantly. Not me. The demon did it. The second sentence is the hardest, the slow one, the one that makes you wash for a long time because it is stained with truth. It was me. And I must take responsibility. If the demon is an excuse to wash hands, then responsibility is real water. It is cold. It stings the wound. It does not give you the feeling of being a hero immediately, but only it can wash away the dirtiest thing, not blood on the skin, but the lie in the heart. And when you wash with real water, the demon loses its place, because demons can only live in hands that are always trying to be clean without being honest. And perhaps that is what makes demons an immortal story of humanity. Not because we are always hunted by devils, but because we are always hunted by ourselves. We run from the dark side, name it, beg someone else to kill it for us. But one day, if we are brave enough, we will turn back, look straight at it, and realize a truth that is both terrifying and freeing. The most terrifying demon is not the thing standing outside the door. It is the thing we build so we never have to open the door and look inside.